encampment. In the train it had seemed to Zhivago that only the train was moving but that time stood still and it was not later than noon. But the sun was already low by the time his cab had finally made its way through the dense crowd in Smolensky Square. In later years, when the doctor recalled this day, it seemed to him he did not know whether this was his original impression or whether it had been altered by subsequent experiences. That even then the crowd hung about the market only by habit. That there was no reason for it to be there, for the empty stalls were shut and not even padlocked and there was nothing to buy or sell in the littered square, which was no longer swept. And it seemed to him that even then he saw, like a silent reproach to the passers-by, thin, decently dressed old men and women shrinking against the walls, wordlessly offering for sale things no one bought and no one needed: artificial flowers, round coffee pots with glass lids and whistles, black net evening dresses, uniforms of abolished offices. Humbler people traded in more useful things: crusts of stale rationed black bread, damp, dirty chunks of sugar, and ounce packages of coarse tobacco cut in half right through the wrapping. And all sorts of nondescript odds and ends were sold all over the market, going up in price as they changed hands. The cab turned into one of the narrow streets opening from the square. Behind them, the setting sun warmed their backs. In front of them a draft horse clattered along, pulling an empty, bouncing cart. It raised pillars of dust, glowing like bronze in the rays of the low sun. At last they passed the cart which had blocked their way. They drove faster. The doctor was struck by the piles of old newspapers and posters, torn down from the walls and fences, littering the sidewalks and streets. The wind pulled them one way and hoofs, wheels, and feet shoved them the other. They passed several intersections, and soon the doctor's house appeared at a corner. The cab stopped. Yurii Andreevich gasped for breath and his heart hammered loudly as he got out, walked up to the front door, and rang the bell. Nothing happened. He rang again. As there was still no reply, he went on ringing at short, anxious intervals. He was still ringing when he saw that the door had been opened by Antonina Alexandrovna and that she stood holding it wide open. The unexpectedness of it so dumbfounded them both that neither of them heard the other cry out. But as the door held wide open by Tonia was in itself a welcome and almost an embrace, they soon recovered and rushed into each other's arms. A moment later they were both talking at once, interrupting each other. "First of all, is everybody well?" "Yes, yes, don't worry. Everything is all right. I wrote you a lot of silly nonsense, forgive me. But we'll talk about that later. Why didn't you send a telegram? Markel will take your things up. I suppose you got worried when Igorovna didn't let you in. She is in the country. You're thinner. But how young you look, and so pretty. Wait a minute, I'll pay the driver. Igorovna has gone to get some flour. The other servants have been discharged. There's only one girl now, Niusha, you don't know her, she's looking after Sashenka, there's no one else. Everybody has been told you're coming, they're all longing to see you. Gordon, Dudorov, everyone. How is Sashenka? All right, thank God. He's just waked up. If you weren't still dirty. From the train we could go to him at once. Is father at home? Didn't anyone write to you? He's at the borough council from morning till night, he's the chairman. Yes, can you believe it? Have you settled with the driver? Markel. Markel. They were standing in the middle of the street with wicker hamper and suitcase blocking the way. And the passers-by, as they walked around them, looked them over from head to foot, and stared at the cab as it pulled away from the curb and at the wide-open front door, to see what would happen next. But Markel was already running up from the gate to welcome the young master, his waistcoat over his cotton shirt and his porter's cap in his hand, shouting as he ran. Heavenly powers, if it isn't Eureka! It's our little falcon in person. Yurii Andreevich, light of our eyes, So you haven't forgotten us and our prayers, you've come home. And what do you want? He snapped at the curious. Be off with you. What's there to goggle at? How are you, Markle? Let's embrace. Put your cap on, you eccentric. Well, what's new? How's your wife? How are the girls? How should they be? They're growing, thanks be to God. As for news, you can see for yourself, while you were busy at the front we were not idle either. Such a mess they made, such bedlam, the devil couldn't sort it out. The streets unswept, roofs unrepaired, houses unpainted, bellies empty as in Lent. Real peace there, no annexations and no reparations, as they say. I'll tell on you, Markle. He's always like that, Yurii. I can't stand that foolishness. He's talking like that only because he thinks you like it, but he's a sly one. All right, Markle, don't argue with me, I know you. You're a deep one, Markle. Time you were sensible. After all, you know what kind of people we are. They went in. Markle carried the doctor's things inside, shut the front door behind him, and went on confidentially. Antonina Alexandrovna is cross, you heard what she said. It's always like that. She says, you're all black inside, Markle, she says, like that stovepipe. Nowadays, she says, every little child, maybe even every spaniel or any other lapdog knows what's what. That, of course, is true. But all the same, Yurii. Believe it or not. Those who know have seen the book. The Mason's Prophecies, 140 years it's been lying under a stone, and now, it's my considered opinion, Yurii, we've been sold down the river, sold for a song. But can I say a word? See for yourself, Antonina Alexandrovna is making signs to me, she wants me to go. Do you wonder? That's enough, Markle, put the things down, and that will be all, thank you. If Yurii Andreevich wants anything, he'll call you. 2. At last we've got rid of him. All right, you can listen to him if you like, but I can tell you, it's all make-believe. You talk to him and you think he's the village idiot. Butter wouldn't melt in his mouth, and all the time he's secretly sharpening his knife, only he hasn't quite decided yet whom he'll use it on, the charming fellow. Isn't that a bit far-fetched? I expect he's just drunk, that's all. And when is he sober, I'd like to know. Anyway, I've had enough of him. What worries me is, Sasha might go to sleep again before you've seen him. If it weren't for typhus on trains, you haven't any lice on you? I don't think so. I traveled comfortably the same as before the war. I'd better have a quick wash, though. I'll wash more thoroughly afterwards. Which way are you going? Don't we go through the drawing room anymore? Oh, of course, you don't know. Father and I thought and we decided to give up a part of the ground floor to the Agricultural Academy. It's too much to heat in winter, anyway. Even the top floor is too big. So we've offered it to them. They haven't taken it over yet, but they've moved in their libraries and their herbariums and their specimens of seed. I only hope we don't get rats, it's grain, after all. But at the moment they're keeping the rooms spick and span. By the way, we don't say rooms anymore, it's called living space now. Come on, this way. Aren't you slow to catch on? We go up the back stairs. Understand? Follow me, I'll show you. I'm very glad you've given up those rooms. The hospital I've been in was also in a private house. Endless suites of rooms, here and there the parquet flooring still left. Potted palms sticking out their paws like ghosts over the bed, some of the wounded from the battle zone used to wake up screaming. They weren't quite normal, of course shell-shocked, we had to remove the plants. What I mean is, there really was something unhealthy in the way rich people used to live. Masses of superfluous things. Too much furniture, too much room, too much emotional refinement, too many circumlocutions. I'm very glad we're using fewer rooms. We should give up still more. What's that parcel you've got? There's something sticking out of it, it looks like a bird's beak. It's a duck? How lovely. A wild drake. Where did you get it? I can't believe my eyes. It's worth a fortune these days. Somebody made me a present of it on the train. I'll tell you later, it's a long story. What shall I do? Shall I leave it in the kitchen? Yes, of course. I'll send Niusha down at once to pluck and clean it. They say there will be all sorts of horrors this winter, famine, cold. Yes, that's what they are saying everywhere. Just now, I was looking out of the window in the train. I thought, what is there in the whole world worth more than a peaceful family life and work? The rest isn't in our hands. It does look as if there is a bad time coming for a lot of people. Some are trying to get out, they talk of going south, to the Caucasus, or farther still. I wouldn't want to do that, myself. A grown-up man should share his country's fate. To me it's obvious. But for you it's different. I wish you didn't have to go through it all. I'd like to send you away to some safe place, to Finland, perhaps. But if we stand gossiping half an hour on every step, we'll never get upstairs. Wait a minute. I forgot to tell you. I've got news for you. And what news? Nikolai Nikolaevich is back. What Nikolai Nikolaevich? Uncle Kalaya. Tonia. It can't be. Is it really true? It is true. He was in Switzerland. He came all the way around. Through London and Finland. Tonia. You're not joking? Have you seen him? Where is he? Can't we get him now, at once? Don't be so impatient. He's staying with someone in the country. He promised to be back the day after tomorrow. He's changed a lot. You'll be disappointed. He stopped in Petersburg on the way, he's got Bolshevized. Father gets quite hoarse arguing with him. But why do we stop on every step? Let's go. So you too have heard there's a bad time ahead, hardships, dangers, anything might happen. I think so myself. Well, what of it? We'll manage, it can't be the end of everything. We'll wait and see, the same as other people. They say there won't be any firewood, or water, or light. They'll abolish money. No supplies will be coming in. Now we've stopped again. Come along. Listen, they say there are wonderful iron stoves for sale in the Arbit. Small ones. You can burn a newspaper and cook a meal. I've got the address. We must get one before they're all gone. That's right. We'll get one. Good idea. But just think of it, Uncle Kalaya. I can't get over it. Let me tell you what I want to do. We'll set aside a corner. Somewhere on the top floor, say 2 or 3 rooms, communicating ones, and we'll keep those for ourselves and Father and Sashenka and Niusha, and we'll give up all the rest of the house. We'll put up a partition and have our own door, and it will be like a separate apartment. We'll put one of those iron stoves in the middle room, with a pipe through the window, and we'll do all our laundry, and our cooking, and our entertaining, all in this one room. That way we'll get the most out of the fuel, and who knows, with God's help, we'll get through the winter. Of course we'll get through it. There's no question. That's a fine idea. And you know what? We'll have a housewarming. We'll cook the duck and we'll invite Uncle Kalaya. Lovely. And I'll ask Gordon to bring some drink. He can get it from some laboratory or other. Now look, this is the room I was thinking of. All right? Put your suitcase down and go get your hamper. We could ask Dudorov and Shura Schlesinger to the housewarming as well. You don't mind? You haven't forgotten where the washroom is? Spray yourself with some disinfectant. In the meantime I'll go into Sashenka, and send Niusha down, and when we're ready I'll call you. 3. The most important thing for him in Moscow was his little boy. He had been mobilized almost as soon as Sashenka was born. He hardly knew him. One day, while Tonia was still in hospital, he went to see her. He was already in uniform and was about to leave Moscow. He arrived at the baby's feeding time and was not allowed in. He sat down in the waiting room. From the nursery, at the end of the passage beyond the maternity ward, came the squealing chorus of 10.